Hey, it's a griffin. I wasn't originally gonna record this guy, but like I might as well just show it off quickly because we ran into one while we were here. Griffins are... I mean, they're very straightforward. They actually don't really have anything crazy with them. It's literally just... I mean, hell, is this gonna kill it? Okay, that'll probably make it heal, right? No? How much health do they have? Maybe they have a bit more health than I thought they did. Basically, when they have, I think it's 1/8 of their HP or lower, they will use White Wind to heal. But, of course, that's like... I'm not sure... Oh, let's see here. Are you kidding me? Nice dodge. That's slow. There you go. Because it's 1/8 of their HP or lower, the threshold is actually quite low. Like, it's really easy to smack these guys and not even realize they were gonna even do anything, right? Which I always thought was a little weird. And they can only do it once, so it's not like they can keep healing if, you know, you're not doing enough damage. And of course, since they have White Wind, obviously that means, hey ho, I can eat them for White Wind because I'm on my other save. I'm running through, you know, without ever going to the Chocobo Forest. Weesna. Hello, Mr. I actually fear their names are because they're such a weird enemy. Feather Circle, yeah. Weird name. So, these guys, they're pretty fun. So, first of all, when there's, you know, when you haven't killed, I think it's, well, it's, yeah, it works exactly the way they are. So, when you haven't, you know, killed any of them, right, they kind of work the same way, as... whatchamacallit? Well, I should just say, they work exactly the same as the bats. The bats, you know, the axolotls and stuff, where basically they have two different distinct AI patterns, and when they're by themselves, they become more aggressive. But they also have a thing where, because they use Trouble Tail, right, they have a thing where they're more likely to target someone with trouble, I believe. That's what it says, but we just targeted Vivi, which is kind of weird. That one targeted Dagger. But I mean, half of us have trouble. Like, I'm pretty sure it's like they have multiple tail attacks and some of them don't encourage, but some of them do, so I don't know. I know, like, if you look at their thing, they have a thing that specifically says, like, they'll target someone with trouble, but it's kind of weird how they once hit Vivi, but now they're constantly smacking trouble characters. I mean, they keep smacking them. That was like a weird offshoot. Maybe it's like, I don't know. That's weird. And then of course they have a tiny chance to use Bizarre, but that doesn't counter the thing because it's only physical attacks. But like I said, they have a thing just like the bats. So when you've killed all but one of them, that's why we saw that Demi attack back before. They'll start using Demi. They also have another thing. It's like the bats, so they basically alternate between the two different attacks. They'll Demi us, which isn't actually all that scary because it doesn't really do that much damage. Like 149, that's not much more. It's scary if you're higher level because it obviously scales, and it would have been stronger if it hit like Zidane. I think... Actually, do they just spam Demi? I thought they could use Trouble Tail too, but maybe that's wrong. Maybe they just spam... You know, actually, it might actually be a funny thing where they try to use Demi on someone who has trouble. So let me cure our anointment. Let me cure our trouble status. See what happens, or if he's just gonna keep smacking Dagger. The princess. No, I guess they just use Demi, and it's just using it on Dagger too. They actually seemed really fixated on hitting Dagger, which is kind of funny. It's like everyone just hates Dagger today. This is not her week. Do 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 ba do ba dee doo. Is they really just gonna keep using Demi? And now it's hitting Koina. Maybe they have a thing where they target someone who has... Huh. It could just be pure coincidence, but it seems really funny that they keep targeting someone with trouble, but it's like weirdly inconsistent. Like, they just randomly one-time tailed Vivi when two of us had trouble. But now he's spamming Demi on Quena. Which is crazy odds to think about. Like, if that's just random, it's like, man, could have fooled me. Let's let him target one more time. And if he hits, then I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's weird. Is he targeting Quena? Yeah, that's interesting. So maybe they are inclined to use... They just really like to attack someone with trouble. I think if they use Trouble Tail, though, then obviously they will prioritize targeting someone who doesn't have trouble status because, you know, that makes a lot of sense. So I just want to quickly show this off because I didn't even think about this until this happened just now. But this area where the statues pour water on you has its own battle spot. I think we even saw one earlier when when I was doing the feather circles. I don't know if we ever saw the cavey background that has like water in the sides too. It's the same thing. You only see that on a couple of screens with the Gargants that are really tiny, so you don't usually get encounters on them. Same thing here. This tiny screen where you barely get to even walk around because you're climbing for most of the screen has its own area. Like, you can see the statues up there, which is actually really cool detail. Other than that, I mean, this is not really related, but I want to bring this up. That we, you know, let me get my thoughts together here. I really appreciate the Mog shops and stuff, and like even just like the random dudes mining here also selling stuff. Like, I feel like thinking about it, there's a lot of RPGs tend to have these large swaths of the game where you don't really have any shops to buy items from unless you like backtrack or something. But this game actually does a pretty good job of not really having that problem. Like, because the Moogles that are your save points can occasionally have things to buy, and usually the ones that have things to buy are the ones that are like in like dungeons that are like far away from any, like in this place where it's like we don't really have anywhere we can buy anything while we're in here because, you know, can't really backtrack anymore. So it's nice that it's here so that not only does your money mean something, but, you know, that you aren't getting screwed because you didn't buy any items or something. So, this fun little screen. I couldn't really actually find too much information about this, but to my understanding it's actually not nearly as complicated. Well, I never really thought it was complicated, but apparently there's really not that much to it. The reason why I was having trouble finding stuff earlier wasn't because it's like you have to dig a ton. It's actually because every time you pay him the potion, you can only dig up so many items. Like, basically, yeah, the screen basically has a couple items that spawn in when you choose to dig. Funny, I'm getting items really quick now. And there's only like a handful of items that can spawn, apparently. From what I understand, it's basically just healing items, and then the only thing that of note is that you can get an accessory called like a Maiden's Ring, which is fairly rare, but isn't really like harder to find than any of the other things. So basically all there really is to it is just you pay in the potion and just dig around, like dig every like couple spots. Like you have to pick, you know, you have to keep digging because there's like random, I'm not even sure, I don't know exactly how that works, this part works because there's not really any information on it. But basically you just have to dig, like I guess every spot probably just has like a certain amount of spot, like amounts you have to dig for it. And you basically just, from what I can like understand, I'm kind of rambling and like disconnected and just like scrambled up here, but that's because like it's weird, I guess. Let me just like do this like a super efficient way to just say it. So basically, every time you pay a potion, I don't think it's a random amount, but like some amount of random, like any like random item gets put here. It's usually always like some sort of like some type of healing items like ore potions and I think maybe high potions and stuff. Maybe like status healing items too can pop up here, but only so many will appear every time you pay him. From what I can understand, it was something around the realm of like 4 to 6. And once you found like 6 items or so, you can't dig for anything else. And basically, in order to find it, you basically just have to mash in the same spot for like From what I heard, it could be anywhere up to like 50 times, but usually it's not that high. Like you could saw, I got like 3 or 4 ore there just by digging a couple times. And you can get 1 accessory, which is surprising to me because I thought there was more, but it's just the 1 accessory apparently. It's just you can get a Maiden's Ring, which is actually a really good accessory for this point in the game because it's basically a ice version of the Coral Ring, right? It makes the user absorb from ice attacks and has some nice abilities on it. It would be actually cool if I just randomly got it like right now, even though that was ore. But yeah, apparently there really isn't that much to it, which is really surprising to me because it feels very particular. Like I know it isn't exactly the most complicated thing. Like even just without like wanting to understand any of the underlying systems, it's like it's literally just you walk up to a spot and you dig for a while by just pressing the button. And you don't have to match. Like I matched it to go faster, but like it's not like if I can just like tap it once every like 2 seconds and it's pretty good. I'm not sure exactly what spots the items can be on either. Like nobody's ever cared enough to look into this, and I don't have the know-how to do it, so unfortunately I don't know much about modding this game other than like about how things actually work. I don't know how to change them or anything like that, or even how to look into most of it. I guess because the game is on, there's a PC port, right? There's the Steam port. It's probably a lot easier to look into this if you really wanted to. But like I said, nobody's ever bothered because who cares, I guess. It's fairly straightforward, so I guess just nobody cared enough. I got like 1 item, so it feels like there's probably more somewhere, but it's hard to, like I said, right, who knows how many times I have to dig in a spot. I've heard people say sometimes they dug up to like 50 times in a spot before they got something, and like it isn't like, you know, the Maiden's Ring is deeper. Apparently it's just completely random for any item. Like there's no, at the very least we don't see any logic in it. It's just there's items and then they have amounts you have to dig. It's basically Chocobo Hot and Code, but you can't see if you're actually on an item, and the amount you actually have to dig for the item is completely random. It's not based on the item. I got the ring! See, I told you! Woo! That's awesome! I'm glad I was recording this now. Yeah, it gives us ice absorption, it gives us body temperature, chemist, and guardian mog. Do we have chemist on anything yet? I forget if we... Oh, well, I mean, obviously she's learning it, so I guess, yeah. Must have been from, something. Yeah, it was from the cotton robe. So we already know what that is. Guardian Mog is actually a very interesting ability, though. We actually... I'm not even going to tell you what it does yet, because none of our characters can even learn Guardian Mog. Like, if we look... You know, can't learn it. Can't learn it. We already saw it, but just double-checking. Can't learn it, and... can't learn it. So, as you can imagine by the name Guardian Mog, it's probably, you know, you can probably infer that it's something, it's an ability related to someone who probably has a strong connection with Moogles. So there's some fun stuff here. That's actually awesome. I got the freaking item like that quick. That's hilarious. It's kind of funny because I wanted to see if there was like high potions and stuff, but I keep digging up ore. But hey, we got the freaking ring, baby. That's good enough for me. Wait, I don't have the pickaxe anymore. Oh, yeah, I do. I just can't see it at certain angles. That's kind of funny. It's like if I walk over here, it's like it almost like disappears. It's not actually disappearing as far as I can tell. It's just like the angle makes it hard to see. It's kind of funny. But yeah. So I just want to record this because this is something I actually have no idea what happens, but we got Geisho Greens. Oh, we can't use them. See, I was wondering about that. You get Geisho Greens. You get 2 of them, right? When we were in Clayrar, I think. But you have them if you... Like, even though it's like the only real way you get them, they do make sure. Like, I mean, it would be pretty stupid if you could do this, but you can't call a Chocobo until you've actually walked into Chocobo's forest. So, you know, that... I mean, I figured they wouldn't make a simple mistake like that, but I mean, you know... It would have been funny if that actually was the case. Hello, Mr. Goblin Mage. You're actually very straightforward once again. I maybe even could have talked about him on just like another enemy's video, but I just wanted to show off that basically he's really simple. Like, it's literally just he has a bunch of attacks he uses, and then basically anytime you specifically use the attack command on him, he has a 1 in 3 chance to counter with Vanish. You can say he didn't do it this time. Now we'll attack him with Dagger, and maybe he'll vanish this time. He didn't use it this time, so it'd be funny if it was like on odds that he did it this time. No, he just didn't do it at all, actually. It's kind of funny. Hey, you want to counter? Oh, wow. Well, he didn't even get to see it. Well, who cares? You suck. Teehee. Hello, Mr. Sagahan or Sahagan. These guys are actually kind of weird because they have their shell thing that they do, but I'm not 100% sure on this. I think they don't. It isn't like a counter or anything. As far as I could tell, it's just something they just sometimes they do it. They have a small chance to. Like, it's like they have like it's like a 1 in like 6 chance or something like that. It's very small. Because like you just said, I just smacked him with all 3 of them, and he didn't give a crap. Nice shell defense this time. But I don't know if that's a coincidence or not. It's a random thing they can just do. So it's not like if I sit here and like whatchamacallit? Blah, blah, blah. I mean yes, if I just sit here they'll eventually do it. It's kind of silly that it works like that because it's like while they're doing that they don't do anything else. Basically, when they shell defense, they'll just do nothing until their next shell defense, or until their next turn comes up. Holy crapola, that did a lot of damage. Alright, I guess I'll Cura. Have I shown Cura yet? I mean, I guess we'll see it here. It's pretty good healing. But yeah, like, by the way, these guys don't give Mighty Guard. If you eat them, you just get Aqua Breath. Which is kind of boring, but I mean, I understand. They literally have an attack while they shoot water at you, like, from their mouths, I mean. Here, I'm gonna do this quickly, too. I'm gonna heal this guy. I'll smack him a couple times again. Because as far as I can tell from their AI pattern, their AI, like, script, they don't, like... Yeah, like, you can see, like, he just did it now. And like they don't counter anything, and so it's kind of weird. They just get really high defense. Like it makes more sense when there's multiples of them because like if they shell defense right before you attack them, you kind of just wasted some attacks. But it's not like, I mean, especially when they're by themselves, like who cares? And they only ever appear in groups of 1 or 2, so like it's not like it's a big thing. Yeah, they're weird. Like, this isn't really much of an AI video for this guy. This is basically just me talking about how weirdly, like, flawed, like, I wouldn't even necessarily say flawed, but they're just, like, weirdly easy. They have this whole thing, like, with the Serpians, for example, like, they have a counter stance, and then when they enter their counter stance, right, they do it to react to you, and they counter you, so it's like, it actively, like, deters you from attacking them. These guys is like, they don't even, it's not even like a counter. It's just, sometimes they go into their shell and just sit there and do nothing. It's weird how easy it is. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Whew, boy, frog mechanics, man. I just spent freaking an eternity reading over these just to make sure I got everything. Not only so that I have all the information right, but I didn't want to overcomplicate things that didn't need to be overcomplicated. So we're gonna, obviously, you know, I have to do this, right? I gotta get the freaking Q's March music playing up, so we'll get this playing in the background and just let this chill here while I read out everything. Alright, I got a big text document here. So first of all, I want to give a shout outs to Sotfreesec because I got most of this information from their GameFAQs thread. Or from, I guess, their GameFAQs FAQ. their little thing that's like, hey, this is how frog mechanics work. That's like a thing on the main page. And honestly, GameFAQs is basically your best place to go. I should have mentioned this earlier, but GameFAQs is basically your best place to go for any information for this game, because even like the Final Fantasy Wiki has like all their information from here anyways, just like abbreviated and stuff. And I also want to shout out Rebirth Flame, who I've got a bunch. They've got a bunch of documents on GameFAQs as well, and they're like Rebirth has done a lot of work in this game. It's like they're like the #1 source of like FF info basically. They have so much stuff that you can like read. Like it's hard to find it all these days because a lot of the threads are just like gone and died. But Rebirth Flame has done a lot with this game over the years. But anyways, so man, frog growth. So frog mechanics. So I mean, frick, let's just go over this. I'm just gonna read this all. Frog growth is time-based. Each marsh handles the passage of time differently and has its own rate of growth and regeneration. And there are limits to how much they can grow. I guess I should say there's limits to how little or how much they can grow. Which basically means that, like it says here, if you visit too much in between, like, you know, catching frogs, you kind of screw yourself. Because there needs to be like a certain amount of time to pass before frogs will actually respawn and grow. But there's also like, if you wait too long, you kind of waste time too. But I mean, the time you have to spend to waste is pretty long, we'll see. And then like, I have this here but I should probably have this down here. Basically, when you visit each each Q's Marsh for the first time, these are the frogs that appear. And we'll find out more about the information about their levels late in a little bit here. And the funny thing is, these tend to change because like as soon as you start the game up, right, the timers like starts, and the next time you visit even when you visit these for the first time, time has passed. So these frogs have probably reproduced and some will change. So it's worth noting that that's a thing. But basically frogs have a level system, right? And like basically after like every certain amount of time has passed, frogs gain a level, and each level they have like dictates like what stage of their maturity they're at. The level cap is 15, but a frog can begin mating when it reaches level 10. That's when it becomes an adult. Yeah, when it's level 1 to 4, it's a little tadpole. Level 5 to 9 is when it's a baby. Baby frogs, you can catch them, but they can't breed. And then, you know, once they've reached level 10, not only can you catch them, they can actually breed with, you know, frogs. And of course, if a marsh is empty, then it automatically 2 tadpoles will spawn, 1 female and 1 male on the next visit. And there's actually a glitch with this, but we'll go over this later in more in depth. So, how long does it take for frogs to grow? Basically, we have a certain amount of time here. So, the one on, I forget, like, we have the, I probably should have wrote down where these are. I think these are, I believe that this is, I think these are actually in order, I'm pretty sure. So, this is the one on the Mist Continent. The one right here, and then this one is the one we're at right now, and there's 2 more we can get to much later, and these are their timers. So like the later ones go faster actually, which is kind of makes sense from a gameplay perspective, because those are the ones you'll have to wait for the most. These you know, the first one you have a lot of free time to wait basically, because just playing the game you wait a long time probably. And of course, after like this much time has passed, like 6 hours, 15 minutes, 4 hours, 2 hours, and then blah, blah, blah. After that, like the game just like doesn't track any more time. So if you wait too long, you essentially waste cycles. And then yeah, like, you know, it's basically the game tracks how much time has passed based on the last time you entered any particular marsh versus how much time has actually passed in game, right? Which you know, it's called the, I forget what it's called, but it's the timer value. It's your I think it's up here actually. I have it. Your time of last exit value basically, or whatchamacallit. Did I even put it in here? I probably accidentally exerted it, but basically yeah. A funny little quirk. I don't think this is necessarily a glitch, but it's kind of a quirk, which is that The one we're at right now, the Lacento wetlands, and then one we'll see later, the Donna Plains one. Wait, are those... Wait, let me go down here. Lacento and Donna Plains. Oh, I don't think they're actually in order, never mind. Well, you can look up the names for themselves. I should have tracked these better, but whatever. Basically, these two, the Lacento ones and the Donna Plains ones, actually shortchange you. Because, even though these are that says 17 and 12 minutes, they're actually technically, like, I think this one is like 16 minutes and like 2/3 of a minute. And then, like, Donna Plains is like 11 2/3 or something like that. Oh, it even says here, 11 and 1/9. But, like, you'll only really get this timer if you wait a long period of time, right? So, like, if you wait 3 cycles for Lacenta, right, you get 30... Oh, wait, March time is 50 minutes, not 51. Whatever. It's because I'm freaking... Oh yeah, because Lacenta, not Donna. I'm dumb. So like, yeah, like 17, because it's 16 and 2/3. You know, if you wait 3 cycles, right? It's like it'll be 48 and 2/3 times 3, which is, you know, 6/3. So you'll get 50 out of that, and not 51. But if you enter earlier, you kind of lose out on some of that. So like, you know, it's always better to like wait a little extra time, just in case for those ones, because it matters. Now, for the actual mating process. Basically, each pond has 8 slots that can have a frog. And every time a frog levels up, they'll mate as many times as there's actual slots available for a frog to be put in. And they'll mate every time for like each empty slot, and then they'll just keep going until it actually like... Well, they'll mate... Oh, they'll mate either until they actually succeed, or if it fails at every slot, then they give up. And if they level up multiple times because you wait long enough, they'll mate like before each level up, basically. And the chance of mating is essentially 50% by default, but as we'll see later, this can actually change. And like I mentioned this before, but yeah, multiple frogs of like one gender will not breed with each other. So like if there's 1 male frog and 3 female frogs, the male frog doesn't breed with each female frog. It's just one pair, right? They're not poly, they're monogamous. They will only breed like 1 per. Oh, I have this down double time, that's funny. And yeah, the funny thing with this is because it's like random, you can reset whenever you visit a marsh, and essentially you can try to game the system. And like, you know, if you save outside a swamp and then you go inside and there's barely any new frogs, you can just reset and see if you get more. And also, this is a big thing, if the frogs inside cannot reproduce, they will all die. You have to keep that, is very important. So if there are only like, if all the frogs inside are male and there are no female frogs, every frog inside dies. And they will, you know, reset back to 1 male and 1 female tadpole. So you have to be very careful about that. And let me talk about... we'll go with the golden frog there. Did I put that up there? Okay, well, we'll talk about this then, up here. There is a bug where the frog that is in the final 8th slot does not count when the game is determining how many males and females you'll have. So if there is 1 female frog left, and with a bunch of males, and the female is in the 8th slot, the game mistakenly ignores the female frog, and they will kill all the frogs off, even though they can still reproduce. And there's no like official name for this because this isn't really documented in many places, but Soft Reset calls it the cannibalism glitch, and I think that's a funny name to call it, so we'll call it the cannibalism glitch, which I think is a great name. Boo, ba-doo, but it might be a little confusing looking at this because I have a bit of extra information in here. I'm probably not going to go over it because it's like the game. I'll just point this out that the game doesn't keep track of time simple terms like this, it keeps track of it in hexadecimal, obviously. And then it converts it to decimal, and I don't have this document here, but I'll mention this just for funsies. Basically, the game has 4 hexadecimal values, and basically, there's the first one, which, it ticks from 0 to 255, and it goes up by 1 every in-game frame. So, and since the game runs at 60 FPS, it ticks up every 60 frames, goes up a second. And then the next value, when it goes up by 60, up to 255, it'll go up and then it'll reset. But every 60, it takes up the next one, which means you get basically, every 60 seconds, a minute goes up, every 60 minutes, an hour goes up, yada, yada, yada. Or I guess every 60 frames a second goes up, every 60 seconds of hour goes up, I should say. To be as strict as possible. I forget if I didn't double check on this. I think so. It says here that when they level up, they'll mate until there's slots to put in. So I think that if you leave the frogs inside for long enough and they reach the max level, I believe that means that they cannot reproduce anymore. They've essentially they're too old to reproduce, you could say. They're basically, it's kind of funny that it even works like that. But here's a big thing, is that golden frog that I didn't really talk about too much. So the golden frog, how it works is that when there's a golden frog in a swamp, by the way, there can only be one golden frog at a time. Not just in each swamp, but in existence, period. There cannot be, there's usually, if you walk into the first Q's Marsh, you'll usually see a gold frog there on your first visit. And then if you don't catch that golden frog, none of the other swamps will ever have a golden frog. And basically, there's actually 3, this is the weird thing with the golden frog. They actually randomized it. There's 3 different, setups that the golden frog can do. So the golden frog it basically goes from best to worst here, but basically, the golden frog can make it so that tadpoles become babies level 3 and adults at level 6. They can make it so they become babies at level 2 and adults at level 4. And they can make it so that their babies are actually, tadpoles are actually born, essentially they're born as babies and not tadpoles. And become adults at only level 2. Which means that, obviously, if you get lucky, you can have the golden frog make it so that your frogs have a lot of opportunities to reproduce, and reproduce very quickly compared to how long they might potentially have to wait, especially if they don't have a golden frog. Not only that, but the golden frog can randomize the actual mating chance of, checking for 128 from anywhere up to the maximum of 255. Which means that if you're lucky, you can essentially have a golden frog make it so your frogs are born as babies and become adults at only level 2 and can always reproduce every time that they check, which is insane. Very crazy odds there. And yeah, those bonuses only apply to the home pond of the golden frog. And it's completely random. There's no, you can't even, the only real way you have to figure out even these odds is basically to just save scum it and just RNG check it every time, and you'll get it. It's if you're in a situation where your frogs are, you're not seeing any tadpoles, you've got a good golden frog. Even if you're not necessarily having, I would say that's the most valuable one because you get the most chances. You can kind of save scum past it. But if you're really lucky, you can get, a golden frog that makes it very likely to reproduce too. And yeah, like I mentioned in the thing, the golden frog is not a hermaphrodite. Or how do we pronounce it? Hermaphrodite? I've seen this word a lot, but I never really say it out loud. But yeah, the golden frog does have a gender and, participates in mating. It's just you can't see it. Which does unfortunately mean that the golden frog can be, subject to the cannibalism bug just like anything else. So you have to be careful about that. Yeah, these are the presets right here once again. And so these are the frogs that will show up on your first visit, but obviously it isn't. Usually when you visit, it isn't going to be this exactly because, like I said, when you first visit, right, every swamp essentially had its time of last visit set to the initial value of 0. 0 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds. So the first time you visit, all the frogs are going to try to reproduce anyways, and they'll level up. And it's also worth noting that When you go to Lacenta is the one that's, you know, the Q's Marsh near Lindblum. Obviously, it's on the Mist Continent. You can't actually see the golden frog when you first visit while you're walking outside, and you won't see it until you can, you know, hunt them as Quena. And they're actually really nice about this. The frog you catch doesn't get removed. So like, even though you can catch, you might, right, like, you can't see which frog is the golden frog, but you might randomly, perhaps, like, you might by pure happenstance catch the frog, even though it doesn't show up as a golden frog, but it doesn't get rid of it. They're really nice about it. And yeah, that's basically all there is to it. So basically, in a nutshell, frogs can breed when they're adult. Like, when they're adult frogs, they can breed. They will breed every certain amount of time based on which marsh it is and like how long it's been since you last visited. By the way, time you spend inside the marshes does not count. If you're inside the marshes, you know, be very, you know, don't wait inside marshes because it doesn't do anything. You know, and like when they become adults, they'll start breeding every like certain amount of time. The big thing is keep the golden frog in your marsh. Don't catch it unless like you think you've noticed that the golden frog isn't helping much. Like, you're still getting lots of tadpoles and lots of chances to like where there's just not a lot of frogs breeding. Then maybe it's worth catching. I would say it also depends. It's probably best. We haven't seen this one yet, but it might be best to manipulate the golden frog to pop up in Lanner Island, because that's the one that can pop up the fastest. So because of that, you get the golden frog here, you can get a lot of breeding done pretty quickly. So it's worth it maybe to do for that one, I would say. Even if you don't want to bother like with save scumming, and like if you want to keep it simple, you know, be careful when you catch frogs. Like, generally, if you want to go hunt for frogs, be careful. Always save before you walk in, and you know, be careful, because like if you walk out and then you walk back in and there's no frogs left because they all died, you know, you got the glitch. So be careful about that. You don't necessarily, like, if you only left like 2 frogs, it's not usually a big deal, because, you know, if you think about it, that can actually be helpful in some way. Well, not really, because if you wanted to get rid of them, you just catch them. But, you know, it is worth knowing. It's not the end of the world if you get the glitch. You know, this is the amount of time it takes for, you know, essentially a level to have happened. Every like this amount of time, the frogs inside will attempt to reproduce. You know. The timers aren't exact, but, you know, once again, I wouldn't really, I mentioned that for detail's sake, but, you know, I wouldn't really worry too much about that. You know, frogs can only mate when they're adults, like I said. It's 50-50 whether they'll actually, like, make a frog in a slot. Essentially, because they'll only reproduce per slot, when you have, you know, it becomes less likely that they will make frogs as you have more frogs, basically, right? If you have 1 slot available, you'll have like 50-50 chance of getting 1 frog, basically. And that's it. If you have several slots, if you can eventually have up to 6 slots that a pair of frogs can mate in, and you'll get a 50% chance per slot. So you can get multiple frogs just from one thing. And, you know, the golden frog's great. The golden frog does participate in mating, though, so potentially, if you really want to risk it, if you want to save scum it, you can even like save scum to see which gender the frog is by leaving, you know, like catching all the frogs and leaving like 1 gender behind with the golden frog. And if they all die, then you know what the gender, well, I mean, you always know what the gender is just based on that. And yeah, in a nutshell, that's it. This might be a little confusing because I admit I didn't write it down the best, and I probably could have documented it better. But, you know, frog catching isn't that complicated. Like, in a nutshell, basically, you wait a certain amount of time, and don't visit too often, because if you visit often, right, if you visit before the cycle, you get 1 cycle, it essentially wastes, like, a cycle. Like, anything, all that time gets wasted, so you have to be careful about that. And yeah, anyways, that'll be it for this half part. So yeah, see you guys later.